This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
You're welcome back into it. It's still Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. The conversation we're about to have next is something that has been debated severally. Now, the federal government has announced plans to institute a national policy against bullying. This decision is coming several hours after several videos had surfaced on the internet showing children bullying their classmates to the point of injury. Plan International, a non-governmental organization, estimates that about 13 million school-aged children across the country face violence from their classmates and teachers. To understand what pushes children to bully one another, we are joined by Taiwo Owoshina, a child psychologist and therapist. Good morning, ma'am, and thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
I reckon the place to start this conversation really is if you can give us a sense of what exactly it is that makes children resort to this level of violence against each other.
Well, bullying is a social behavior. So when a child observes bullying happening, the child has a tendency or higher tendency to also perpetrate such behavior. The different factors which are related can result into children engaging in bullying, unmet emotional and psychological needs. When the child has low self-esteem and is not able to express himself in healthy ways, the child can result into bullying. Family environment that is dysfunctional can also expose the child to possibilities of bullying as well. So, a child that has observed his father bullying mother or vice versa, the child also can end up becoming a bully, not at home, but in school, where he has more power and he just has emotional tension and he wants to let out things. It can result into bullying or be the victim, as the case may be. Neglect or abuse is also another reason why a child can become a bully. When the child is consistently feeling abandoned and the child needs to be in control of his own life, in a way to actually feel meaningful, can also result into bullying, especially among peers. And speaking of peer, we have peer influence as well. So in an environment that is toxic, so for example, school environment, the child can become a bully, probably by being a bystander, which is maybe someone that is observing bullying acts happening and is doing nothing but watching. That child is also a victim one way or the other. And the cycle continues. The child also can become a bully. And finally, maybe we can think of exposure to environments that is toxic. And school is one of the environments, and even before happens, that most of the bullying happen in school environments, in classrooms, especially by classmates. So, yes, when the environment is toxic, the child can also be a potential person that will bully.
Can you give us a sense of whether there are different triggers that make this bullying move from, for instance, verbal bullying to physical bullying?
Okay, so we say bullying is bullying, right? Regardless of what the nature, whether it's verbal, psychological, emotional, and all whatnot, even cyberbullying. So it might not really matter. So speaking of trigger, what triggers the kind of bullying, it just depends on that environment, all right? It depends on that environment. And the way it works is once someone that is bullying uses one approach, maybe say verbal bullying, for example, and this person bully is receiving it in stride and is able to stand up to them, they'll use something else. You get it? So it's not like one way all of the time. It depends on the environment and the person bullying, and of course the person that is being bullied. That will determine what kind. What a child that is receiving verbal bullying as being bullied, another child would receive it as, will stand up to that person because it's not cutting it for the child. But the same child put him in another situation might just chicken out at verbal bullying. So it depends on that environment, the child that is bullying and the one being bullied.
Right. So when it comes to the response to bullying, I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. And I ask that because it's not the first time that we've seen conversations around bullying happen. But what should the government and schools consider in developing this national policy against bullying?
So, as I said, bullying is a learned behavior, and it requires a holistic approach, which will involve the family, the schools, the communities to stand up, and even policymakers where government comes in. So, as response, we need to respond as a people, because it's no more a one-person causing harm or mayhem in one corner. It's about a people, as a social behavior, that means it has been observed and the same behavior is repeated. So it requires a systemic approach to respond to it. For example, within the house, an attack, I wanted to say an attack, like a program or a system can be put in place to really fight bullying within the house. And we may not call it bullying, aggressive behavior of any kind. We can speak to it, we can address it within the family. In the school, policies can be put in place to step in and stem bullying. Remember, being a social behavior, if no consequence is met or punishment, no punitive action met upon bullying, it will reinforce the repetition of that behavior. It will reinforce that behavior. So that behavior will repeat itself. And why we have it repeating itself these days is because we don't have effective measures put in place to stem it within the school system. And that's where policy within the school works. And of course, at the society, or maybe let's say a policy point of view, which is where government comes in. Yes, policy at government level can help to systemically put systems in place to stem bullying.
Well, I would like to say a very big thank you to you for joining us on the conversation. Taiwo Owoshina, thank you for your time and your expertise on this conversation. Taiwo Owoshina is a child psychologist and a therapist, and she joined us this morning to speak on the federal government's announcement of a national policy against bullying, which is coming after several videos have made their way to the internet showing children bullying their classmates to the point of injury. You're still on to Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. In a few short moments, we turn things slightly lighter when we bring you Entertainment Now.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.